You know that feeling when you open your mouth to speak and it's like throwing confetti into a hurricane? Nobody's catching it. Nobody's moved by it. You could be reciting poetry or just asking someone to pick up their socks, and either way, the response is about as enthusiastic as a wet sandwich. Your words used to land. They used to matter. But now it feels like you're speaking into a void, wearing a muzzle made of marshmallows. And before you start thinking this is just about other people not listening, let me stop you right there. This isn't about them. This is about you. This is about what's happened to your words, and more importantly, what's happened to the power behind them. I want you to think about the last time you really meant something you said. Not just the words coming out of your mouth while your mind was 3 counties away planning dinner or replaying that embarrassing thing you did in 2013. I mean, really meant it. Felt it in your bones. Spoke it like you were calling lightning down from the heavens. Can you remember? Because here's what I know to be true. Your words have lost their power because you stopped believing in them first. And when you don't believe in your own words, why on earth would anyone else? Now, I can already hear some of you saying, but I do mean what I say. I'm very sincere. And I believe you think that. But sincerity and power are not the same thing, my dear. You can be sincerely wrong. You can be sincerely confused. You can be sincerely speaking words that contradict the very vibration you're putting out into the universe. And that's where the whole thing falls apart like a sandcastle at high tide. Your words are not just sounds. They're not just communication tools. They are creative forces. They are the very substance by which you shape your reality. And right now, you've been using them like a toddler uses a hammer, just banging away with no understanding of what you're actually building. Let me tell you what's really happening here. Every single word you speak carries a frequency. It carries an intention, whether you're conscious of it or not. When you say something while simultaneously doubting it, fearing it, or contradicting it with your internal chatter, you're sending out mixed signals. It's like trying to tune into your favorite radio station, but there are 17 other stations bleeding through at the same time. The message gets garbled. The power gets diluted. And what comes out is just noise. Weak, ineffective, forgettable noise. People don't respond to your words anymore because subconsciously they can feel that you don't really stand behind them. They sense the wobble. They detect the disconnect between what you're saying and what you're actually believing. And trust me, people are far more intuitive than we give them credit for. Here's the thing that's going to sound a little wild, but stick with me. The universe, life, whatever you want to call this grand cosmic joke we're all participating in, it doesn't respond to your words. It responds to your conviction. It responds to the faith and feeling behind your words. You could say, I am powerful 1,000 times while feeling like a wet noodle. And guess what the universe hears? Wet noodle. You're essentially placing an order at the cosmic restaurant and then immediately calling back to cancel. Yes, I'd like the confidence special. Extra courage on the side. Actually, never mind. I'll just have the anxiety platter I always get. Thanks. And then you wonder why nothing changes. I want to share something with you. There's a reason children's words carry so much weight when they speak. Have you noticed that? When a child declares something, there's this pure, unfiltered belief behind it. They haven't learned to doubt themselves into oblivion yet. They haven't spent 20 years layering fear and social conditioning and past failures onto every single sentence. When a 5-year-old tells you they're going to be an astronaut, they mean it with their whole heart. There's no little voice in their head going, but statistically speaking, the odds are really not in your favor. Maybe you should consider something more realistic, like becoming a disappointment to your parents. That voice comes later. That voice is learned. And that voice is exactly what's stolen the power from your words. So how did we get here? How did your words become these powerless little wisps of sound that drift away the moment they leave your mouth? Well, let me paint you a picture. Over the years, you've probably said a lot of things you didn't mean. Not because you're a liar, necessarily, but because you've been conditioned to speak a certain way. You've said, I'm fine, when you were falling apart. You've said, I'll do it, when you had no intention of following through. You've made promises to yourself that you broke before the words even finished echoing in your mind. And every single time you did that, you taught yourself a very dangerous lesson. You taught yourself that your words don't matter. You trained your subconscious mind to ignore the things that come out of your mouth because there's no consistent follow-through, no real power, no actual conviction behind them. It's like the boy who cried wolf, except you're both the boy and the villagers. You've cried wolf so many times that even you don't believe yourself anymore. And that, my friend, is a tragedy. Because your words are supposed to be your wand. They're supposed to be the tool by which you transform your life. But you've been waving around a broken stick and wondering why the magic isn't happening. You've been speaking declarations while simultaneously holding a belief system that completely contradicts them. You say you want abundance while believing deep down that you're not worthy of it. You say you're going to change while clutching your old patterns like a security blanket. You say you're powerful while living in fear of your own shadow. Now, here's where it gets interesting. There's actually a scientific basis for all of this, though the scientists didn't call it what it really is. They talk about something called cognitive dissonance. That's the fancy term for when what you say and what you believe are having a fist fight in your brain. When there's a gap between your words and your beliefs, your mind goes into this uncomfortable state. And to resolve that discomfort, you know what usually wins? Your beliefs. Your deep-seated beliefs will sabotage your words every single time. You can affirm yourself into next Tuesday. But if you don't actually believe what you're saying, you're just creating very expensive noise. But here's the beautiful part. Here's where it all turns around. This is also your way out. Because if you've trained yourself to speak powerless words, you can train yourself to speak powerful ones. If you've conditioned your mind to ignore your declarations, you can recondition it to honor them. This isn't some mystical, unattainable thing. This is a practice. This is a discipline. This is about bringing your words and your beliefs into alignment so that when you speak, the universe actually pays attention. So that when you declare something, reality starts to rearrange itself to match. Let me give you a framework to understand this better. Think of your mind as a garden. Every word you speak is a seed. But here's the catch. The soil of that garden is your belief system. If you're planting seeds of abundance in soil that's full of unworthiness and fear, those seeds aren't going to grow. They can't. The environment is hostile. You're literally trying to grow roses in a landfill and then getting upset when all you get is trash. Your words need fertile ground. They need a belief system that supports them, nurtures them, allows them to take root and flourish. So the first step to restoring power to your words is to clean up your inner garden. You need to start paying attention to what you actually believe, not just what you say you believe. This requires brutal honesty. This requires you to sit down and really examine your thoughts. When you say, "I am capable," what does the voice in your head immediately respond with? When you declare, "I deserve good things," does another part of you start listing all the reasons that's not true? Those contrary voices, those opposing beliefs, they're the weeds choking out your seeds. And you can't just ignore them. You have to pull them out by the roots. Here's a fun exercise that's going to make you slightly uncomfortable, which means it's probably going to work. For the next 3 days, I want you to pay attention to every time you speak something that you don't actually believe. Every time you say yes when you mean no. Every time you agree with something you don't agree with. Every time you make a promise to yourself that you have no intention of keeping. Just notice it. Don't judge it. Don't try to fix it yet. Just become aware. Because you cannot change what you're not aware of. And I'm willing to bet that once you start paying attention, you're going to be horrified at how often you're undermining your own power with throwaway words and casual lies. Now, once you've done that, once you've seen the extent of the damage, we can start rebuilding. And here's how. You're going to start small. You're not going to wake up tomorrow and declare that you're a billionaire when you currently have $43 in a dream. That's not how this works. That's setting yourself up for failure and more cognitive dissonance. Instead, you're going to start speaking words that you can actually believe right now, in this moment. You're going to build your word power the way you build muscle, gradually, consistently, with increasing weight. Start with statements that are just slightly beyond where you currently are, but still believable. Instead of "I am wildly successful," try "I am learning what success means for me." Instead of "I am fearless," try "I am willing to feel my fear and move forward anyway." Instead of "I have everything I need," try I am open to receiving what I need. Do you see the difference? These statements don't create that internal resistance. They don't trigger the part of your brain that immediately screams, liar. They're bridges. They're stepping stones. They're building your credibility with yourself. And here's the critical part. When you speak these words, you have to mean them. You have to feel them. You have to let them land in your body, not just rattle around in your head. Say them slowly. Say them with intention. Say them like you're casting a spell, because you are. You're literally reorganizing the atoms of your reality with your voice. This isn't poetry. This isn't metaphor. This is how the universe actually works. Your words infused with feeling and belief become things. They become circumstances. They become your life. Let me tell you about the law of correspondence. As within, so without. As above, so below. Your external reality is always a mirror of your internal state. If your words have no power in your external world, it's because they have no power in your internal world. If people don't listen to you, it's because you're not listening to you. If your declarations seem to disappear into thin air, it's because you're treating them like they're made of air. You want to know how to get people to respect your words? Start respecting them yourself. You want to know how to make your declarations powerful? Start treating them as sacred. I know some of you are thinking, but what about those times when I did believe and nothing happened? And to that, I say, did you really believe? Or did you just really want to believe? Because there's a difference. Wanting to believe while secretly doubting is not the same as actually believing. Real belief doesn't question. Real belief doesn't check the clock, wondering when the manifestation is going to show up. Real belief is a settled knowing, not a desperate hoping. And I know that's hard to hear because we've all been there. We've all tried to force ourselves to believe something while our entire being was vibrating with doubt. But that's not faith. That's fantasy. And the universe knows the difference. Here's another piece of the puzzle that people miss. Your words lose power when they're scattered. When you're speaking one thing on Monday, the opposite on Tuesday, and something completely different on Wednesday, you're not creating anything. You're just creating chaos. The universe doesn't know what to give you because you keep changing the order. Imagine going to a restaurant and telling the waiter you want pasta, then 2 minutes later yelling that you actually want steak, then a minute after that insisting you're vegan, and how dare they suggest animal products. Eventually, the waiter is just going to back away slowly, and you're going to go hungry. That's what you're doing with your inconsistent words. Consistency is key, not robotic repetition, but consistent alignment between what you say, what you believe, and what you do. When these three things line up, when your words and beliefs and actions are all pointing in the same direction, that's when magic happens. That's when doors start opening. That's when the right people and opportunities and resources start showing up. Not because you got lucky, but because you finally created a clear, coherent signal that the universe could respond to. Now let's talk about something that might sting a little. Your words have also lost power because you've been using them to complain instead of create. You've been using them to describe your problems instead of declare your solutions. You've been wielding your words like weapons against yourself, constantly reinforcing everything that's wrong, everything that's lacking, everything that's broken. And then you wonder why your life looks like a catalog of complaints. You've been speaking your reality into existence, all right. It's just been a reality you didn't want. Every time you say, I'm so tired, you're affirming tiredness. Every time you say, I can't afford that, you're affirming lack. Every time you say, nothing ever works out for me, you're literally programming your subconscious to make sure nothing works out. Your words are instructions. They're commands. They're orders placed with the universe. And the universe doesn't judge whether those orders are good for you or not. It just fills them. It just says, oh, you want more tiredness? You got it. You want more lack? Coming right up. You want more failure? Your wish is my command. So here's what we're going to do instead. We're going to flip it. We're going to start using our words to create rather than complain. Even when things are difficult, even when life is challenging, we're going to speak to what we want, not what we have. We're going to declare the solution, not just describe the problem. This doesn't mean ignoring reality. This doesn't mean pretending everything is perfect when it's not. This means acknowledging where you are while simultaneously calling forth where you're going. Let me give you an example. Instead of "I'm so broke," try "I am open to new sources of income." Instead of "I'm exhausted," try "I am learning to honor my need for rest." Instead of "Nobody listens to me," try "I am learning to speak with clarity and conviction." Do you feel the difference? The second version doesn't deny the current situation, but it doesn't cement it either. It creates space for change. It invites transformation. It uses your words as a bridge rather than a prison. And here's something that's going to sound counterintuitive. You need to start speaking less. I know. This whole talk is about making your words powerful, and now I'm telling you to use fewer of them. But here's the thing. When you speak too much, when you're constantly explaining, justifying, defending, narrating every thought that crosses your mind, your words become diluted. They become background noise. Think about it. The people you know whose words carry the most weight, they're probably not the ones who never shut up. They're the ones who choose their words carefully, who speak with intention, who understand that silence can be more powerful than sound. There's a reason declarations work best when they're short and repeated, rather than long and complicated. I am enough. 3 words. But if you truly believe them, truly feel them, those 3 words can transform your entire life. Compare that to a 10-minute rambling explanation of all the ways you're trying to be enough, and all the reasons you're not sure if you are, and all the times people made you feel like you weren't. Which one carries more power? The simple declaration or the complicated story? You know the answer, so start editing yourself. Start noticing when you're speaking just to fill silence, just to hear yourself talk, just to get validation, just out of nervousness. Those words are costing you power. Every frivolous word, every unnecessary explanation, every bit of gossip and complaint and empty chatter is draining your battery. You only have so much creative energy in a day. You want to spend it on words that build, not words that just exist. Now, let's talk about apologies. Oh, the apologizing. Some of you are apologizing for breathing. You're apologizing for existing. You're saying sorry 17 times a day for things that don't require apologies. And every time you do that, you're teaching yourself and everyone around you that you're in the wrong by default, that your presence is an imposition, that your words better come with a disclaimer. Do you see how this destroys your power? How can your words carry weight when they're constantly prefaced with "sorry to bother you," or "this might be stupid but," or "I'm probably wrong however"? Stop apologizing for having thoughts. Stop apologizing for taking up space. Stop apologizing for speaking. If you're truly wrong, if you've actually harmed someone, then yes, apologize with sincerity and make amends. But stop the reflexive, constant, self-diminishing apologies that have become a verbal tick. They're not making you more likable. They're making you forgettable. They're stripping away your authority before you even finish your sentence. Here's what you're going to do instead. You're going to practice speaking declaratively, not aggressively, not arrogantly, but with calm certainty. I think we should try this approach. Not "I'm not sure," but maybe we could possibly consider, if it's okay with everyone, perhaps trying this approach, if that's all right. The second version is asking permission to exist. The first version is contributing value. Which one do you think people are going to take seriously? And while we're at it, let's address questions. Specifically, the way some of you turn statements into questions with that upward inflection at the end. My name is Sarah. No, sweetheart, either your name is Sarah or it isn't. Don't turn it into a question. This habit, this making every statement sound like you're seeking approval, it's murdering your credibility. It's making everything you say sound uncertain, even when you know exactly what you're talking about. Drop your voice at the end of statements. Claim your words. Own them. Stand behind them with your full presence. Let me share something with you about affirmations. Since we're on the topic of speaking powerfully, so many people are doing affirmations wrong, and then they're frustrated that nothing's changing. They're standing in front of the mirror saying, "I am rich, I am rich, I am rich," while their bank account is screaming the opposite and their stomach is churning with anxiety. That's not an affirmation. That's an argument. You're arguing with reality, and reality is going to win that fight every time. The key to affirmations is to find the place where you can actually meet them, where you can say the words and your entire being doesn't revolt. Sometimes that means adjusting the affirmation. Sometimes that means doing the inner work first so you can actually receive what you're declaring. You can't just slap positive words on top of negative beliefs and expect transformation. That's like trying to paint over mold. It might look okay for a minute, but the rot is still underneath, and it's going to spread. So when you're crafting your declarations, your affirmations, your statements of truth, make sure they're actually true for you right now, or at least believable enough that you're not triggering your own defense mechanisms. Work with your psychology, not against it. Be strategic, be honest, be real. Now here's the action part. Here's where you actually start to rebuild this power. Today, right now, I want you to make one declaration that you can fully believe. Just one. Something small enough that it doesn't trigger resistance, but meaningful enough that it matters. Maybe it's I am willing to try. Maybe it's I deserve kindness. Maybe it's I am learning. Whatever it is, say it out loud. Right now, I mean it. Say it out loud and feel it in your body. Let it land. Let it be true. And then, here's the important part. Act in alignment with that declaration. If you declare, I am learning, then do something today that teaches you something. If you declare, I deserve kindness, then be kind to yourself in some small way. Your actions need to back up your words, or you're back to mixed signals and diluted power. Coherence is everything. Words plus belief plus action equals power. That's the formula. That's what you've been missing. Over the next week, I want you to practice this. One declaration a day that you fully believe, and one action that supports it. Watch what happens. Watch how different it feels to speak words you actually stand behind. Watch how people start responding to you differently when your words carry the weight of conviction instead of the wobble of doubt. This is how you rebuild. This is how you restore power to your voice. Not through volume, not through aggression, but through alignment, through integrity, through the coherent resonance of someone who means what they say and says what they mean. Your words are waiting to become powerful again. They're waiting for you to remember that they're not just sounds, but creative forces. They're waiting for you to stop betraying them with doubt and inconsistency and careless usage. They're waiting for you to treat them as sacred, as important, as the literal tools by which you shape your existence. And when you do that, when you finally honor your words with belief and action, everything changes. Your relationships change, your opportunities change, your entire life changes. Because you're no longer just talking. You're creating. You're commanding. You're wielding the power that was always yours, but that you'd forgotten how to use. So take this seriously. Not heavily, but seriously. Bring consciousness to every word that leaves your mouth. Bring intentionality. Bring belief. Start small. Build gradually. Be patient with yourself, but also be committed. This is not a quick fix. This is a fundamental shift in how you relate to language, to yourself, to reality itself. But it's worth it. Oh, it's so worth it. Because when your words regain their power, you regain your power. And there's nothing more transformative than that. Now, I want you to do something for me. Leave a comment below and tell me, what is one declaration you're committing to this week? What is one thing you're going to say, believe, and act on? Share it. Put it out into the world. Make it real. And if this resonated with you, if this helped you see where you've been giving away your power, then subscribe. Stay connected. Because we're just getting started on this journey of remembering who you really are and what you're truly capable of. Your words have power. Now go use them wisely. Now go use them well. Now go use them to create the life you're meant to live.